So, Paul, yes, 25 years of Aspire. Congratulations and
Thank you.
Happy anniversary. So, obviously, we wanted to just kind of get your thoughts on how things have developed, evolved over that time, because obviously being here from the beginning, of course. So, how has the market or how has the business changed from when you first started as PFJ?
Wow. Well, a lot.
Yeah.
A lot, and this is going to sound really weird, contradicting what I just said. A lot and not a lot. So, 25 years ago, recruitment was pretty unheard of, in as much that it existed, but mainly people noticed it more in sort of the high street scenario than they did sort of more for white collar workers, and so your biggest competition when you were in recruitment, well, first of all, you had to sell the whole concept of using a recruitment agency. Why would an employer use a recruitment agency? I mean, why would I need to do that? I just advertise in the paper or advertise in my trade magazine, and people apply to me and I hire people that way. So actually the biggest competition was actually media. It wasn't other recruitment companies at all. So things then have evolved, and I suppose, I don't bore to death anyone watching this, that the sort of quick things that have changed, so obviously the internet came along, so the first we saw that was sort of 1998, 2000, around that sort of time. So you had JobServe, JobSite, Total Jobs, Monster, all launching around that time. And people in recruitment went, oh God, the end of the world is nigh. Our employers, our clients are going to be able to access all candidates, won't need us, it's going to be terrible, it's going to be carnage. No, of course that wasn't the case at all. In fact, it was recruitment companies, recruitment agencies that financed the job boards, so they actually turned out to be a huge ally. Then you sort of saw things like managed service provision, recruitment process outsourcing, managed service agency models come into recruitment. So you would have PSLs, preferred suppliers list, all this sort of stuff that came into the market. That's in the sort of early 2000s, I expect. Then the internet came again, because its first outing was not very good. But also, only 6 years ago now, LinkedIn, seems like it's been around forever, was probably the biggest game changer. And along with LinkedIn, suddenly all people are accessible, so to speak. I mean, LinkedIn will try and claim that everybody is on LinkedIn. They're not. In fact, all recruiters are looking at LinkedIn, but quite a lot of other people who are on LinkedIn aren't looking at their profile or doing anything all day long. And then also you saw the advent of applicant tracking systems. You've seen a huge boom in people who work recruitment agencies going in-house and working with our clients, using all these different tools. So there has been a migration, but if you then look at it and say, well, funnily enough, with all that change and that competition that's happened, how come the recruitment agency market is still growing, both in perm placements and revenue, and temporary and interim placements and revenue? And it just goes to show that recruiters are actually very adaptable and use these tools, arguably more cleverly, more smartly than anyone else does.
Thanks. So, I guess obviously following on from that, obviously from those changes, from the times when you first started out in recruitment, and then obviously then starting with Aspire, how do you think, as a business or as a business person, you responded to the change and continue to keep Aspire moving forward with those changes?
Learned a lot. Recruitment's a people business, so we're only as good or as otherwise as our people. So someone who uses Aspire may think Aspire is absolutely fantastic because they are having a meeting with one of our people, Gemma Lawless and whoever, and they go, oh, this person's fantastic. So they're a real representative of the brand. And likewise, the opposite can also be true. So there have been plenty of people over the years, we'll get around to answering the question, there's plenty of people over the years who've joined Aspire and they have then gone on a client visit to go and see a potential client, and they've come back and said, Paul, do you know so and so? And I go, I can't remember, brain's full. And they go, he remembers you. He thought you were an idiot. But he is using us. But despite you still being in the business, Paul's going to use us. And so how things have changed and things over the time is that the biggest change is probably the use of technology and how different generations are using that technology. So when I started in recruitment, it was the telephone. That was the tool, the only tool you needed. You didn't have a computer. You had a Rolodex of cards. You had CVs, physical CVs to work with, and Brad. And now, email is a fantastic thing, but unfortunately, it's also, I think, an awful thing. So you then you do have people who operate by email, and I think generationally also you have a generation that's used to so many devices and communicating with people so many different ways that some ways you have to learn new forms, new arts of communication. So there's no point saying, well, don't do it on WhatsApp, or don't do it on email, or don't do it through LinkedIn messaging. The fact is, maybe the communication choice from the candidate or indeed the client. So a lot of tech clients don't even have a phone number. So until you get their respect, and then they'll give you their mobile number and stuff. So it's, I think that for me has been the biggest change and the most frustrating change. So I just want to speak to someone. I want to hear their voice. I want to hear the intonation. I want to hear when they say yes, do they mean no, or do they actually mean yes? Or when they say no, do they mean no, but it could be a yes? How do you can't tell that through all these other devices? So I think that's been the fundamental biggest change. I think the most recent change has probably been the growth of the internal recruiter. So people who used to work in recruitment agencies now working in our clients. A huge amount of them in our clients we've got fantastic relationships with, and that's terrific. But to suggest that they are not a threat to recruitment agencies is a joke, because a lot of them will be picking the low-hanging fruit, which is absolutely their right to do so. So therefore they are passing on to us the more challenging roles to fill. But there's not necessarily a higher level of reward for us for filling the ones they can't fill themselves, that type of thing. So I think it is that's one of the biggest changes. Obviously, big companies and their sort of procurement teams and PSL and the sort of pain you have to go through sometimes to play a part of that is a bit of a pain. I think most people in recruitment would probably say they would favour working with SMEs, working with directors. I particularly like working with SMEs and directors and stuff like that, because they're running a business. I'm actually interested in their business and how it operates and what its point of difference is and what's going to happen, and I think we can add enormous value to them. I think we will obviously add enormous value to big companies, but in many ways they're not quite as interesting. I hope there aren't any big companies going to watch this and say, go away, Paul.
It's a good point. It's funny because in some ways people, especially in the recruitment industry, view us as a larger type of business. The average size of recruitment companies are between 5 to 10 people in the UK. So I guess turning that on its head a little bit, it's in terms of seeing Aspire as a business, how do you keep us competitive in the landscape, especially within our market where there's a lot of startups, a lot of smaller agencies out there who kind of challenging a bit with the status quo and how you do things? How do you see us as a business competing with those types of organisations?
Well, I think we've got a lot of advantages, and that's not to suggest for a second that there's not room for everybody, but I think that there are the market at the moment is so sort of candidate short. It's a bit difficult to tell where people's strengths and weaknesses are. I think when the market tightens, and it goes in cycles, so anyone who's thinking, oh, it's great, isn't the market, there's lots of jobs and lots of candidates, well, it will change. They go in cycles. So it's when that cycle changes you actually find out, are there actually competition or not, and how can they withstand it. So from a bigger company perspective, I mean, it is odd, you're absolutely right to suggest we're a big company, and globally, 127, 130 people, or whatever it is. So it's, I would hardly call that massive. But you're right, most recruitment companies are single figures, and many are even small, not smaller than single figures, can you? But they, 1-2 man bands as well. So what have we got? What are our aces? Well, scale is an ace. So and it's a very good ace, because while our teams work in their specialist sectors, there's much more opportunity for candidates who've got transferable skills to therefore be identified. Whereas if you just do one specialism, that's all you see, then you see someone who could actually go and do something else. You don't know anything about that. You've got no one to talk to about it. You've got no one to share the knowledge with. You can't actually do anything. So from using candidates who've got transferable skills, I think is a big win. From a client perspective, obviously we can actually solve most of their recruitment needs across the board, and we can not only do it across the board, we can actually do it with a specialist across the board. So if you were going in for multi-medical issues like liver, kidneys, heart, you had a broken arm, you had an eye problem, some teeth problem, all the rest of it, you'd actually want to see a liver specialist, a kidney specialist, an orthopaedic surgeon, a neurosurgeon, an eye surgeon, and have the specialist work on you. But you'd actually probably want to do it in the same hospital. You wouldn't want to have to go to 7 or 8 different hospitals for all these different treatments. And so whilst just with a hospital, maybe more of a department store or whatever you want, but basically it's under one roof. And I think that's very engaging. Well, we know it's very engaging for clients because they tell us that's what they particularly like. I think the ability to invest, today is a great example of that. So all the new Surface Pros and come into the business, and that sort of level of investment in a business is not something a lot of companies can do or take the step to do. We've invested obviously in a global network, so we're in Singapore, we're in Hong Kong, we've got obviously plans and a vision to go further than that. That's each office, setting up an office, is a significant investment, time, money, all the rest of it. So we're able to do that. What we've done, investment in the Talent Hub in Birmingham, so a dedicated resourcing centre, onshore, English-speaking, English people, European people, people based in England, is what I'd say. I think is a massive investment, also a key indicator of where we see the market changing over a while, and also our investment in looking at digital solutions, so offering different type of solutions to our clients. Right through to some of the payroll work we do for companies, that you have to have the scale and size to be able to do that. So we're exceptionally flexible in what we're able to offer companies. You can have as little of it or as much of it as you like, but whatever your problem is, we're pretty well able to help, and things like the market research, the report we recently did, into skills in the sector. You look at how many companies have downloaded that, how many candidates have downloaded that, and you're saying, right, okay, that's a significant piece of work, it's another investment, it takes time, energy and all the rest of it. So scale allows you to do these things.
No, I think it's a good part. I like the hospital analogy, definitely solving many problems.
As long as people are not squeamish. Yeah.
So I mean, it's great. So it's interesting hearing the story there, Paul. And I guess obviously, one of our questions here is, how do you think you've changed, and how do you think you've changed? Being a recruiter, setting up a business, to being the business owner, and really to now to a point where you're back up to 100 people internationally talking about growth and going forward. I mean, through that whole period, how do you think you've changed as? I
don't know. Probably other people probably better answer that better than I would. How do I think I've changed? When I was younger, quite a lot of people would say to me, to my face, which I always took with great pride actually, that they thought I was quite arrogant. I don't know if that's changed. I always put it down to confidence. And where's the line between arrogance and confidence? So I think I'm a little less bombastic than I was. the business has evolved the management of the business evolved in a very consensual style. So, so in the early days, I always felt it was me to lead the troops, and that's what it's all about. And my way or the highway, typey thing. And then actually relatively early on, because we had recruited someone called Tracy Fenner, who was fantastic, and she very early on learnt to manage me, like telling me to shut up and stuff, and not to interfere and how to get on with it. So I got from her quite early on, and she runs a training thing now, so it's a really good training she does, and so I learned from her quite early on that the sort of actually this is about consensus. And then we developed, I think, as a business, much more of a coaching style. I don't think necessarily I developed that style as much as some of our managers. I'm definitely not the best manager in the business, that's for damn sure. So how have I changed? Obviously older. I wouldn't necessarily say wiser. I think I'm softer. I think I was not think. I know I was. I'm much more flexible now than I was. I'm much more understanding, I think, now of and appreciative of the sort of human element to working with people. In many ways, you are the sort of someone here calls me work papa. Sorry, their daughter calls me. Says to her, "Is that your work papa?" And in many ways you are. I do feel quite paternal to everyone who works here. I was surprised that someone was surprised I knew everyone's name. I thought it would be very odd if I didn't. It wouldn't show you took much interest in people who don't even know their name. So I think that I've always felt that hasn't changed. In fact, it hasn't strengthened or weakened. That's sort of part of my DNA. What else have I changed? Other than that, I think I'm probably untrainable and undevelopmentable, or whatever the word is. I think that question needs to be answered by other people. I don't know. That's the answer.
Fair enough. No, good. So I guess going kind of a final note then. So in terms of a couple of things we want to look at, where do you think the market's heading? And so we'll fast start on. Where do you think the market is heading?
Well, any market, supply and demand, and so with recruitment, obviously it's quite open to the vagaries of economies. So in the short term, obviously short term, we've got an election right now. In the 2-year short term, we have what the outcome of Brexit or not's going to be. So it's then all these things will affect the job market. And it affects in 2 ways. So one, people's confidence and ability to move job. So so people feel that are there enough jobs out there for me to move job? And if there are, then that obviously creates more vacancies. So the more people are moving, the more jobs are. So good for recruitment agencies. But funny enough, it's not so much. You don't want too much of it. It's that doesn't help anyone, because if you get too much of it, then the cost to companies recruiting goes too high, and then they get all stressed out about using recruitment companies. So and obviously the volume of jobs. Personally, I'm very confident about the UK's future. I think London, and particularly in our marketplace, digital media, marketing, communications, London's got such intel, such creative skill. It is a real hub for where our marketplace is. So you can still see companies, even with the sort of uncertainty of what's going to happen, you can still see them coming in, daily. And Amazon and Google and Facebook obviously lead stuff like that, and they're all up staffing in London, taking on hundreds, if not thousands, of people. So, so therefore, for the recruitment industry, so how's that going to serve? There's going to be an increased demand for companies to say, we're paying. People think they still pay too much for recruitment, so they're gonna want to pay less for more. We're already seeing it. Over the last sort of 2 or 3 years, there's been, or even longer, 5 years, there's been a continual push for, well, actually, they want to pay us less, but they want more service from us. And they might give us less as well, but they want more for the money. So it's counterintuitive to supply and demand factors. In fact, I'm sure there'll be an economics lesson in a few years looking back at it, saying that was really interesting, supply and demand. So if there's a shortage of supply, demand's high, prices go up. Nope, not in this environment. They're not. So therefore, recruiters have to be adaptable, flexible. How else can we deliver? What else can we do? How do we actually make sure we do create value and keep value? So I think if you think, if people think the 360 model is the model of the future and nothing's going to change, I think they're in for a bit of a nasty surprise. I think you've got to come up with different delivery models. You've got to come up with a menu of services that clients can therefore choose from with your advice and consultation about what best suits their needs. But just saying we just do this way or no other way, I don't think it's going to be the way forward.
Yeah, not sustainable, definitely not. I guess and then final thing on that note is, where do you see the future for Aspire within that?
Well, continual development globally. So, as you know, Darren, we've got our eyes on America, we've got our eyes on the Middle East, and obviously growing in China and Asia. But one must underestimate the difficulty of doing that. It's an easy off the cuff thing to say. Fortunately, we've done it in 2 countries, so we know how to do it. We also know what we're letting ourselves in for. So our vision clearly is to be global. What we've also learned, one of the advantages we've learned, is how no market's the same. So London is not the same as Singapore, and Singapore is not the same as Hong Kong. So we already know that, and in Hong Kong we're recruiting already into China. We know China's not the same as Hong Kong. So you can see that and learn from that, and add that to your repertoire of understanding and skills when you're looking at how to operate. I think what we're going to build in London, as in looking at what services companies want from us, and just look at completely different ways of working. I don't think the human piece is going to disappear. I mean, I still can't see a day where technology can take a job brief properly from a client, because anyone who's ever read a job description would never have done that job because they're so incredibly boring. And the people writing them don't even like writing them. So, oh God, your responsibilities. Oh, thank you very much. And a recruiter's key skill is to bring something to life, is to create and paint that picture. And so to be able to do that, you need to be able to sit with a hiring manager and ask questions, and then listen to the answers and ask questions on the answers you get. Well, technology is going to have to second guess A, what questions to ask, and B, what questions to ask on the answers they've been given. I just don't. I'm sure some clever person at Google's working on it, but I just don't see that happening. Likewise with candidates, of really understanding what someone's motivations are, what it is they really want to do, and what their actual real reason for leaving actually is, and the intonation of what they're saying as opposed to the words that they're using, and to be able to truly consult with them. So that is going to need human interaction. That's the value that recruiters will be giving in the future. But that can be supported by so many different things, mainly technology, data, that type of thing.
No, it's great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
Perfect. Thank you.